Religion was never the plan. Here is what replaced the kingdom. Something is wrong, and deep down, you know it. You have done what they told you. You showed up, you listened, you tried, and somehow your life still does not reflect what you were promised. So now you are left asking questions. Quiet questions, the kind you don't say out loud. Why am I still stuck? Why does this feel empty? Why isn't anything changing? And instead of answers, you were told to do more. More effort, more activity, more repetition. But what if the issue was never your effort? What if the problem is the system itself? Let me say something clearly, and I don't want you to rush past this. Religion was never the plan. Not a better version of it, not a modified version of it, not a more disciplined version of it. It was never the plan. And I know that's uncomfortable because religion feels familiar. It feels structured. It feels like you are doing something right. But familiarity is not truth. You can repeat something for years and never question it. You can inherit something and assume it is correct just because it has been passed down. And some of you never questioned it. You were born into it, raised in it, taught to accept it, and now you defend it, even though it is not producing results. That is not loyalty. That is conditioning. Let us make this real. You are still struggling with discipline, still inconsistent, still distracted. You are still dealing with confusion, still unsure, still searching. You are still dealing with cycles, same patterns, same outcomes. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, why? Intellectual authority. In the last episode, we talked about the kingdom. Not religion, not tradition. The kingdom. We broke down alignment, authority, identity, dominion. And for some of you, that was the first time anything ever made any sense. Because systems always make things clear. But now we have to go deeper. If the kingdom is a message, then why was it replaced? Why do so many people spend their entire lives in something that never produces transformation? Why do people stay stuck for years doing the same things, expecting different results? Because something happened. Something replaced the system. And what replaced it? Looks spiritual, sounds correct, feels familiar, but produces confusion. It produces cycles. It produces inconsistency. It produces dependency instead of growth. And until you see it, you will stay in it. Not because you want to, but because you don't recognize it. So in this episode, we are going to expose it. Not emotionally, not through opinions, not through arguments, through structure, through systems, through truth. And once you see it, you are going to understand why so many people never change. And more importantly, how you don't stay one of them. How religion replaced the kingdom. Now, let's deal with this directly. Because if you misunderstand this part, you will keep repeating the same cycle. Religion did not replace the kingdom overnight. It happened slowly, quietly, over time, and that is why it is hard to see. Let's define it clearly so there is no confusion. Religion is what happens when people turn a system into a routine. When they take something living and reduce it to repetition. When they replace understanding with habit. So now instead of alignment, identity, authority, you get activity, performance, routine. And it looks the same on the outside, but it produces something completely different. Let me show you how this works in real life. Think about money. There are people who understand how money works. They understand systems, structure, discipline, long-term thinking. And then there are people who just work hard. They show up every day. They put in effort. They stay busy, but they never build anything. Why? Because effort without system produces exhaustion. That is religion. Let's go deeper. Relationships. There are people who understand relationships. They understand boundaries, identity, communication, alignment. Then there are people who just try. They give more. They tolerate more. They stay longer than they should. And they keep ending up in the same situation. Why? Because effort without understanding creates cycle. That is religion. Bring it back. The spiritual system. Now bring that back. People are trying to get results through repetition. Do more, say more, attend more. But nothing changes because the system has been replaced. Why it was replaced? Why was the system replaced? Now here's the part people don't want to deal with. Systems require responsibility. If you understand a system, you are accountable. You can't blame people, circumstances, timing. Because you understand what produces results. But routines don't require understanding. You just follow them. Repeat them. Stay inside them. So people choose what was easier. And this isn't just spiritual. This is everywhere. Look at culture. People follow trends without understanding them. They repeat language without thinking about it. They adopt mindsets without questioning them. That's not thinking. That's conditioning. And the same thing happened here. This is the hard truth, your personal responsibility. So now we have to be honest. Some of you have been committed to something that was never producing results. Not because you are wrong, not because you are incapable, not because the system was incomplete and nobody told you. And here is the real danger. When you stay in a system that does not produce growth, you become dependent. dependent on constant motivation, constant reassurance, constant repetition. Instead of becoming disciplined, clear, stable. That is the difference. So now you have to see it. The issue was never effort. The issue was never desire. The issue was the system. And until you change the system, you will keep repeating the same results. So now the question becomes, if this system doesn't work, what does? And more importantly, how do you break out of it completely? How to break out of the system for real? Now, this is where everything becomes real, because it is easy to hear something. It is easy to agree with it. It is easy to feel something in the moment, but it's hard to actually change your life. And if you don't change your life, none of this will matter. Let us make something crystal clear. You don't break out of a system by trying harder. You break out of a system by replacing it. Because systems don't respond to effort. They respond to structure. So if you keep trying without changing structure, you will stay stuck. Step 1, awareness. Not surface awareness, not I kind of see it. Real awareness. You have to see exactly where your life is misaligned. Your habits, your thinking, your environment, your patterns. Let us make it real. If you say you want discipline, but your daily routine is chaotic, you are misaligned. If you say you want financial stability, but you spend without structure, you are misaligned. If you say you want better relationships, but you tolerate dysfunction, you are misaligned. And until you admit that, nothing changes. Step 2, decision. Not interest, not curiosity. Decision. Because without a decision, you will negotiate with your old life. You will say, I'll start tomorrow. I'll try again later. I'll ease into it, and nothing will change. A decision cuts off options. It says, this version of me is done. Step 3, structure. This is where most people fail, because they try to change without changing their structure. Let me show you what that looks like. You say, I want to be disciplined, but your day has no structure. You wake up randomly, you react to everything and everything. You have no system. That is not a discipline problem. That's a structure problem. Same with money. You say, I want to grow financially, but you don't track anything. No plan, no system. That is not lack of opportunity. That's lack of structure. Same with relationships. You say, I want something better, but you keep the same standards, same tolerance, same environment. That's not bad luck. That is the same system. Step 4, environment. Your environment is either reinforcing your growth or your dysfunction. And most people refuse to change it. You stay around the same conversations, the same distractions, the same influences, and expect a different life. That is not faith. That is self-sabotage. Step 5, consistency. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient. Every day, because systems only produce results when they are applied consistently, not emotionally, systematically. So now you see it. You don't need more motivation, more inspiration, more information. You need awareness, decision, structure, environment, consistency. That is how you break the system. And once you do this, your life changes. Not randomly, not slowly, predictably. Because now you are operating in a system that works. But here's the problem. Most people won't do it. And in the next section, we're going to deal with why. Let me make this even deeper, because some of you are still thinking, this sounds good, but how do I actually live this? You live it in your decisions. Not once a week, not when you feel inspired. Every single day. Micro decisions. This is what changes your life. Your life is not built on big moments. It's built on small decisions. The decision to wake up on time, stay focused, follow through, stay disciplined. That is the system. And most people ignore this because it is not dramatic. But this is where everything changes. Reality check. Why you keep restarting? Let's deal with this once and for all. Some of you are stuck in a cycle of restarting. You start strong, you fall off, you restart again. Over and over and over. That is not growth. That is instability. And instability comes from lack of system. Expanded money reality. Let me show you something clearly. If someone gave you $10,000 today and your system didn't change, you would end up in the same position because money does not fix systems. It reveals them. So the goal is not more money. The goal is a better system. Same with relationships. You don't need a better person. You need better standards. Because if your standards stay the same, your outcomes stay the same. And no one talks about that. So understand this. You don't rise because of motivation. You rise because of systems. And once your system changes, your life follows. Why most people will never change? Now, this is the part most people don't want to hear. Because everything we just talked about is simple. Not easy, but simple. And that's the problem. Most people will not change. Not because they can't, not because they don't understand, but because they won't do what is required. Break the illusion. Let's remove the illusion. Change is not mysterious. It's not complicated. You already know what you need to stop, what you need to start, what you need to fix. But knowing and doing are not the same thing. And most people live in that gap. Let us be honest. You are comfortable, not happy, not fulfilled, comfortable. Comfortable in your habits, your excuses, your patterns. Because discomfort requires change, and change requires effort, and effort requires discipline. So instead, you stay the same. Let's make this real. You wake up, and you already know what you should be doing. But you check your phone, you waste time, you delay. That's not lack of knowledge, that's lack of discipline. You know you should be more focused, be more consistent, be more intentional. But you don't do it. And then you wonder why nothing changes. Money. Let's go even deeper. Money. You say you want more, but your habits don't match it. You spend without thinking, you avoid structure, you ignore discipline. And then you say, why am I still here? Because your system hasn't changed. Relationships. You say you want better, but you keep choosing the same patterns. You ignore red flags, you lower your standards, you tolerate dysfunction, and then you call it bad luck. No, it's the same system, discipline. You say you don't have it, but that's not true. You have discipline for what you care about. You are consistent with distractions, comfort, habits that don't grow you. So it's not that you lack discipline. You've just applied it in the wrong direction. And this is where it gets real. You don't act differently because you don't see yourself differently. Identity drives behavior. So if you still see yourself as inconsistent, unfocused, undisciplined, you will act like it. You have heard it. You understand it. And now you have to decide. Not later, not tomorrow, now. Are you going to stay where you are, or are you going to become who you are supposed to be? Because you can't do both. You cannot stay the same and expect a different life. You cannot think the same and expect new results. You cannot operate in the same system and expect transformation. Something has to change, and that something is you. So here's the truth. Most people will hear this and do nothing, but a few will take this and change everything. The question is not, is this true? The question is, which one are you? Let me go even further. Because some of you are still waiting for the right time. There is no right time. There is only decision. Time is moving whether you change or not. Days are passing. Weeks are passing. Years are passing. And if nothing changes, you will look up and be in the same place. Same habits, same mindset, same results. That is the cost. And here's what's really happening. You are in a battle between who you are and who you have been. And every day you choose, not once, every day. So stop saying, I'm trying. Instead, say, this is who I am now. Because identity locks in behavior. And behavior produces results. So understand this clearly. You are not stuck. You are repeating a system. And once you stop repeating it, your life changes. Most people will hear this and do nothing. Thank you. God bless you. Transforming people's lives. The Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden and Outreach Ministries. With our clothing bins all over, we're collecting clothes and shoes and giving it out to all in the communities, in the cities, and all over the world. Wherever there's a need, the Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden is there to fulfill it. Please continue all your donations, whether it be clothes, food, shoes, or monetary donations, so we can take care of God's people all over the world. The donation starts with you. Let's build the kingdom together.